It's another week in the For Your Reference household, and it is another course of our 2023 Reference Degustation. A month-long celebration of the finest Takashi Miike madness. Yeah. This is Friends and Lovers, the third of 4 courses. And, you know, after we've had the most brilliant, ingenuitive, innovative meal we will ever devour in our sad little lives, now comes a course that is very underwhelming.
Oh, straight to it.
Straight to it. But what I will also do is usually the sommelier will come along and gesture to you the pairing of the wines. So I'm actually going to interrupt how I might be feeling about Ichi the Killer to do a quid pro mo.
Ooh, breaking genre tropes like Takashi, eh?
And it can only be done record-breaking, award-winning. Shout-outs to Christine and all of the team at the Private Affairs podcast.
Nice.
We first became aware from the wins at the Australian Podcast Awards. So love and splooshes, congratulations. It's currently dropped 2 out of 5 of its second season, OT.
Oh, nice.
And, you know, perhaps in another multiverse, you can do an audio drama about being a black man in Australia.
The world's not ready.
Friends and Lovers, we will put it in the show notes. We talk about how art is so important to support, but also when it's great and it's steeped in quality, it should also be supported. So love and splooshes to Christine and everyone at the team. This new season of Private Affairs kicks off with an unforgettable 30th birthday trip to Thailand. The character's journey through a story touching on work, mental health, reproductive choice, and betrayal. Relationships will be tested and emotions will run high as this season leans into drama. And also, OT, they're not afraid to show that there can be divide against black people.
Oh.
So you've got some work cut out for you, OT.
Clearly.
Back to the course. Eat up, friends and lovers. Friends and cum plant lovers, welcome. I personally enjoy the cum squats, but
Wow.
Wow, you unraveled before we even got to the intro, OT. Welcome back to the For Your Reference podcast. We're feeling just as splooshy in our 4 years, friends and lovers. You got your host, Katie.
And OT.
Smirk into frame of overridden histories, kitty sniffers, and love punches.
Ooh.
Enter Kakihara's Labyrinth with Ichi the Killer this week.
Nice.
Yee. Or should I say, Did you need subtitles, OT?
I did.
Spoiler, spoiler, spoiler. Cum squats, cum squats, cum squats. Friends and lovers, we're just going to get straight into it. This is our Takashi Miike run. And you know what I've also noticed, OT? We haven't ranked the films like we did in Tarantino. So once I do the general stats and information, before we do our first impressions, I see you cringing. I know. We will do that for all of the satiated friends and lovers on the bean flicking couch. Takashi Miike directing in regards to writing. The screenplay was by Sakichi Sato, and in regards to the manga, which makes so much sense that this was a manga, by the way, Hideo Yamamoto. In regards to release date, again, this is right next to Visitor Q. We have another 2001 baby.
Oh.
Yeah, months and months apart. The Toronto International Film Festival, apparently this was like a little gimmick that they gave out, like vomit bags like before the screening of this film. I would have given yawn bags, but that's just me.
Oh, feeling salty.
Yawns in the Johns. In regards to actors, we have Tadanobu Asano, Nao Omori, as well as Shinya Sakamoto.
Nice.
How nice? Are rankings nice?
Yeah.
Okay, well, this is where we can meaningfully rank, to be fair, because we only had done 2 previously. Friends and lovers, welcome, welcome, welcome. If this is very new and you're super nasty and you're super late to the reservation in the For Your Reference Diga station, we are at our 3rd course. We are at our 4th Reference Diga station. Hayao Miyazaki was our first, the Scarlet Pig of it all. We also did Taika Waititi, Quentin Jerome N-word Tarantino. And now Takashi Miike. So let's do a ranking. We don't need to rate them out of 10, but let's do a ranking. I think we're going to agree. It's going to be a very quick ranking.
Yeah, it is. For me personally, it has to be Visitor Q, Audition, and then Ichi the Killer.
Yeah.
So far.
And there's a big gap between Audition and Ichi the Killer. But, I keep getting carried away. Let's just get into general first impressions. Shout outs to the patrons that were very bold to join us on this Miike madness journey that have also contributed to common and recurring themes. But before we get to that, first impressions, my love.
I was most excited to watch this movie out of the whole bunch that we selected.
Now you wish we had JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, don't you?
I just expected so much more from it, from everything that I'd read about it, even from just the general buzz on the internet for it. But sadly, man, it didn't resonate with me that well. I really struggled through it. I could see what he was trying to do with the movie, but resonance and understanding just was so far apart.
I think the way I encapsulate it is the sensationalism that we come to know Miike for wasn't grounded in substance that we also can know him for. A lot of the elements, not necessarily the absurdity, but the notes of, I guess, taking things to the highest sort of octane weren't to purpose. So the impact was lost on me.
Yeah, I hear you.
I did tell you that I felt like this was based on some sort of like anime or manga just because of the way that the characters were set up. I don't necessarily like I guess the overarching sort of story wasn't very interesting. And we also said spoilers. This is why we're calling it Kakihara's Labyrinth, because we thought he was Ichi the Killer.
Yeah.
Visually, but even then, so I don't know, you don't need to answer it now, but like, I don't know how often and I don't know how effective it is when you put the non-titular character as a part of the whole marketing campaign. But to me, that doesn't work. And also at the same time, he's visually very interesting to look at, right? And maybe that was the point, because Ichi is very plain looking, right? So to not have Ichi be Ichi on the poster, and also, what is it, like 2/3? I wouldn't say it was 3/4. Maybe it was 2/3 of the film. We didn't even know who Ichi was, what he looked like. So even then, because we didn't know who this character was, we didn't know what his motivations were. We didn't even know yes, I guess you could argue that there was world building in this film. There was definitely no character building. And then you can't get any sort of emotional sort of resonance. Far be it from me to feel for the family in Visitor Q. Like you gave me the notes of possibility and you snatched it away for nonsense.
A lot of the elements about this movie just didn't work for me.
Yeah.
I'm a very emotional watcher. So I try to grab a character that I'll fully be in with. And I couldn't find it. Kakihara was so interesting, but we really got barely anything from him.
Yeah. He was about it though. He's like, oh, I dishonored you and everyone else. Okay, I'll come.
Here's my tongue. Like I wanted if take each out of the picture, focus on Kakihara, and let's deep dive.
Let's go for it.
Let's go for it, man. Like
full balls to the wall. Let's get the mega unrated version.
And in as much as, the aspects of, I don't even know, the quirks, are there quirks? The aspects about Ichi's character that are like...
You mean coming onto a plant? Is that a quirk to you? Where were
if
you
watch Hero Academia, you know it's a quirk.
Where were you in the Me Too movement, OT?
Behind Harvey Weinstein.
And you know why that's funny, friends and lovers? Because Tar is great, apparently. That's why it's funny.
Anyway, it's I just expected so much more, especially I was keen to know the backstory of Kakihara more. I wanted to know how and why.
Yeah.
And Ichi wasn't even that interesting.
No.
But Ichi's character was so benign, I think, and really brought nothing to the table. I mean, the head-to-head that I was anticipating between Ichi and Kakihara didn't even live up to the hype for me.
Yeah.
Or at least the hype in my head.
Because we talk about the greatest battles of all time, you know? Goku and Vegeta, Sub-Zero and Scorpion, Naruto and Sasuke. Like, we think about the greatest battles of all time, and this did not build to anything.
Yeah.
Visitor Q using the rock to hit the dad over the head was more of a battle than what we saw in this film. And I guess Visitor Q is always going to be our ex that we compare everyone else to now. Like, there's no way, like, how does this film, I don't know, because we talked about Visitor Q potentially feeling gritty and I guess unfiltered, that it felt like it came before the cinema, I guess more cinema friendly audition. I don't understand how Ichi the Killer came after this, but then maybe that's to talk to the adapting sort of ability as opposed to just being able to make a film.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess one of the other things that I wanted to say about Ichi the Killer is it was boring.
Yeah.
Like, for all of the fanfare, for all of the visuals, because you can't take anything away from the visuals of this film, right? I think the tenterhooks, I'll need to let Mel Gibbies know that he's got a new technique ready to go. Are you ready for Passion of the Christ Part 2?
I was born ready.
Were you reborn ready?
That's a different question now.
But there's so much about this film that just didn't work. And, you know, I wouldn't be as dramatic to say that it almost ended our podcast, but we also took a break recording the podcast because it was like, what?
I needed to evaluate my life after this movie.
But I don't know, maybe it's also like a reflection of the year that we've had in podcasting as well. Like, sometimes it's just like a what the fuck, man? Like, why are we here and what are we doing? But I guess let's get into the general themes that we have, common and recurring themes across the Mickey sort of catalog that we're doing. We kind of already talked about the cinematography. Is there anything else you want to say about the visuals or even the score or soundtrack?
No, not really. I think everything else just took a back seat to what was unfolding in terms of the storyline, at least for me.
Okay, that's fine. The next theme that we have, which I'm glad it's finding relevance while we continue to explore these films, is a commentary on Japan / the world. You know, I will put a little bit of a trigger warning here, just that, you know, we talk about, you know, violence, especially in regards to women, sexual as well as physical violence. I don't know, because I guess themes can be explored, and I believe art is the vessel to be able to have these hard sort of conversations. I really feel like Visitor Q does that. It offers the vessel to be able to talk about uncomfortable themes, even to the fact of physical violence or even sexual violence against women, right? For me, that was very effective, right? Even though I wouldn't go so far as to say some people claim that Audition was a feminist movie because they haven't watched Ichi the Killer to know otherwise. But the way that, you know, women were portrayed, or, you know, the way other characters, you know, interacted with the women in Ichi the Killer, it had the same ingredients, but it just wasn't baked the same.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I didn't get anything specific that felt to me that was, hey, Japan to the world sort of moment. There's sort of overarching themes that we've covered throughout the first two that we've watched, you know? Yeah. And we could depict specific examples. Yeah. With this, I didn't get that aspect that much.
I've got one. It was when they were in the club and, you know, there was a lot of, they did use the word Yakuza, did they not? Yeah. There was a lot of ex-gang members that were kicked out, whether disgraced or otherwise, for whatever reason, they're not a part of the gangs anymore, or the syndicates, I think, at least in the subtitles they were saying. And they were talking about Shinjuku, how murder, arson, smuggling and rape is normal here. And if you have skills like that, you're only going to be able to get work in Shinjuku. I think you're right, though. Because I think in a lot of senses, I try not to over apply where it isn't, right? And I feel like even by me continuing this sentence is over applying because I didn't necessarily feel like it was present in the film. But I guess you could say on a broader sort of scale, this could be commentary on, these sorts of seedy areas that people don't talk about, right? Everyone has that pristine, shiny, in some cases we talked about in Visitor Q, that emasculation of what people view Japan as, right? And that's I'm not even talking about like the tourist postcard sort of sense. I'm just saying, I don't even know if it's sort of ignorance. I think it's just like the general sort of, oh, this is how Japanese people are. They're so great. They're so lovely. And that's not to say that they're not, but it's also, there are parts of society that aren't necessarily that way and perhaps could be addressed. But again, I think I'm cleanly defining it more than it was in the film.
Yeah.
But I would say it was there for their being sake. So this is something that I want to come to you because, even when we talked about the commentary, like for us, it was very easy to identify in Audition and Visitor Q that we were set in Japan. What did you feel like any of this film was real or not?
It felt real. It didn't feel that we were getting a version of, let's say, Kakihara or anything like that wasn't necessarily reality. Everything felt sort of grounded in its masochistic sort of way.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Okay. I think the better question, considering we both didn't necessarily care for this film, was whether it was real or not, would that have made a difference to you?
Oh, I don't think it would have.
Yeah, right?
I don't think it would have. If it would have felt more gimmicky than anything else, if I'm honest. It will be like time is non-linear moment for me.
Yeah. And I don't know where else this will fit in the themes, and I definitely want to talk about it for a little bit. Let's talk about Ichi, because friends and lovers, I have never watched Inception, and I don't think I have enough time to go and check it out in my own leisurely time. I'm just going to pretend that what Gigi did to Ichi was Inception. So let's spend some time picking that apart, because again, this is the worst, I wouldn't say the worst, sorry. This is the sort of storytelling that is the least engaging for me, and it's the hardest for me to latch onto, in that 2/3 of the film we waited to actually meaningfully get to know who Ichi was. And even as we got to know Ichi, he had this really confronting kink of, I've written it down actually. I think she also said it as well. You only like women that are black and blue, right? So it's not just women that have been physically abused, but it's also seeing the act happen. That's part of his kink, right? And we're not here to kink shame, and you can do it in very safe ways. Okay, Army OT Hammer. Like, there are safe ways to explore kinks, and we're definitely not kink shaming. So there's that Ichi that we came to know later on in the film, after we see the super clear visuals of Kakihara that wasn't Ichi, right? So we get to know this is who Ichi is. And then we get a plot twist that was never who he was. He never really killed his parents, right? So this kink was, I guess, indoctrinated into him from Gigi. And also the fact that, so he did kill his parents, but then that was I think added on top. I think he actually did, and that is real in proverbial air quotes. But all of this sort of sensationalism that Ichi had, all of that sort of driving sort of motivators, and him saying really weird, gross stuff about, what gets him off, right? It's fucked up when even I say it's uncomfortable, right?
Yeah, it is. I think when we talk about the two sort of the strongest characters in the movie, in Ichi and Kakihara, both of them don't really have control over their own lives.
Yeah.
They're all controlled by, for Ichi's instance, is Gigi. Kakihara has his own mob boss, Anjo, who had disappeared.
Yeah.
But, there's still people above him.
What was that weird line about trying to say he's gay? What was that? That was weird.
Yeah.
Like, if you're going to go there, go there. Or does he just love his boss and he doesn't want to see him get hurt? That's a pretty normal, non-gendered, non-sexuality feeling.
Yeah, people can be proud of their work. You know, he's there to protect his boss.
Yeah.
Yeah, weird. I think that was the sort of, if there was anything that I took out of this movie, is that most of us are controlled in our lives and we're all in our own Truman Show.
I don't think we've done Jim Carrey on this podcast.
We've got to cover that Ace Ventura, eh?
I don't know. I don't know about that, but friends and lovers, we've also been playing a game called, is it called Stanley's Parable?
Yeah.
That's very interesting. Look it up in your spare time, friends and lovers. But, you know, to talk about that banal sort of mundanity of life and that sort of thing. And also, it wasn't to the point where the film made me angry, because the only times I get angry in a film is when I get Tyra Banks disappointed, you know, like where I felt like it could have been something and it failed to deliver. Because I didn't care about this film, maybe that's why I wasn't angry. But the final showdown was a whole lot of nonsense. Even the fact that like Kakihara might still be alive, and then they had like that scene, little trigger warning, friends and lovers, of like someone hanging on a tree. I couldn't guess who that was. And then there was also like closing up, like zooming in on some young kid as if that's to suggest like a sequel or, you know, some sort of Easter egg breadcrumb or whatever it is. Like at that point, I just didn't fucking care. I'm just roll the fucking credits.
I hear you. I think one of the most funniest things that happened in the movie was Gigi's reveal. I cackled so hard, man. It was wild.
Stupid. But you know, we get our resonance, or we get our giggle gaggles wherever we can, friends and lovers. Let's continue to direction/stylistic choices. This from Rob. Unflinching graphic nature of the violence.
Did you want violence in the movie? Whew. They had it in heap loads, I think, to the point where it was almost, not even almost, it was uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It felt very gratuitous in nature, to the point where I didn't even understand if it had any meaning at that point. Yeah. Especially towards women.
Thank you.
It felt, I was like, okay, there's so many repeating moments of that I was like, okay, what are you trying to say? Because not just use your fucking words.
It's like, we get it.
Don't show us anymore. Just use, like, women are like, I don't even understand this, man. Yeah. It was super uncomfortable.
But like, you're right, because if it was to prove a point, if it was to make a statement, you made it already. We like beating up women and it gets us off. Like, we get it. Like, how many times do you have to do it?
And they'll be just there, you know, half naked or naked.
Yeah.
In their own blood.
But their nipples were cut off, so it doesn't count as nudity.
Like, I'm like, bro. Yeah. At some point, the first, the second, the third, now you're just taking this too far.
But I think you're right, because I think gratuitous sort of sex or violence, people like using that, but this is absolutely genuinely where it should be applied. Because for what reason other to make us be like, okay, bet, like, we get it. Like, what? Like, there's nothing else to learn.
Yeah, whatever messaging was already received, and the continued usage of that just felt, I don't know, like they can.
But for someone that likes to eat all of the meat off the bones, including the cartilage, even for you, it was done. There was nothing else to pick at.
Yeah. Come on now. Just move on from this.
Yeah, I know.
Tell us more about Ichi. Tell us more about Kakihara. Tell us anything else other than this.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely agree. This comes from Ben. The interaction between sex and violence. It's not healthy.
It is not. Because Ichi needs to go talk to someone.
He talked to Gigi. I also have a note here saying, when is Ichi not hard?
Yeah.
Man, there was some primo. They should hire Tanok here, because there was some primo bold shots in Ichi the Killer.
And why is he so angry every time? Like, if you've got a boner, you don't need to do something about it every single time. The boner can just be.
Can we print that on some merch? Can you say that one more time?
You can let the boner just be. You don't have to do something about it every single time.
But you also said 15 minutes ago you were behind Harvey Weinstein, so... We don't need that on merch though.
He got a boner and he was like fighting himself on the bed, trying to, why is it not going? Like, come on now.
Rub it out.
What is this?
Just rub one out. You'll be fine.
It was wild. It was wild. I think.
Aren't you the king of post-nut clarity, though? You should know why he was so clouded.
I guess so. But I think with everything else happening in the movie, that got lost.
Okay.
I think everyone needed a post-nut clarity moment.
But not the women, right?
They're too busy being black and blue.
Remember that was a Tyrese movie with Naomi Harris? Well, I guess there were films of the same caliber out there.
See you adding culture to this, eh?
No, don't make me sound like Jonah Hill and you people. When I say it wasn't Eddie Murphy's character that said, say black culture. It's not the culture. Say black culture.
And apparently the CGI the whole kissing scene, which is wild, man.
Stop that. We've got enough nonsense in this film. I also have written down the most dramatic slap in history. Oh man, yeah, this film is something else. And we didn't even get our pixelated porn in this film.
Yeah, man. I think I would have taken some of that away from the brutality of it all.
Right? Let's get to the next one. Rob, brutal justification to right the wrongs. I think there is an inherent component that doesn't apply to this film, because what would be the right and the wrongs in this film?
Yeah, weird, because Kakihara did whatever he wanted because he's a masochist and a sadist at the same time. Ichi did whatever he fucking wanted.
I'm just... Because we're doing it for a podcast. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't think much more about this film or any of the lines in this film. But Gigi talks about how, Ichi gets hard, but he can't ejaculate. And now I'm confused, because is that something that Ichi always had, or is that as a result of Gigi's inception?
I think a bit of both. But he does ejaculate because we see...
No, I think we only saw him do it once, and it was on that plant.
But that means that he can't ejaculate. The mere fact that it was only shown once, it means that...
No, but that's because he saw the act of... Whenever Gigi is doing that mind control thing, it's an imagination. So I guess he wasn't as creative in the mind.
I guess so.
So I guess in this instance, what would you say? Because I don't think it was satisfactory. I think we can both agree. But can you tenuously piece together what for the wrong was?
No, not really.
Because I think we agree the women were done wrong in this movie, and that was never made right.
Nope.
I think Gigi was the winner.
Gigi was the winner.
And Gigi got super jacked. We got like a Master Roshi scene.
He is exactly Master Roshi.
But he got like super, like out of nowhere. There's your Master Roshi index right there. Wild. Let's move on to Ben. So this is essentially, I guess, the core of this film: unchecked desires and passions.
Everyone?
Yeah.
Everyone acted on their desires and passions.
Now, could you be any more unchecked?
There's no limit. Like there's no filter. Yeah. Everyone did whatever it is they wanted without most of them without any sort of consequence. So yeah, it was met.
Well, just like OT said, you can waste a boner, and sometimes restraint is a good thing if you're nasty. A line that I thought was very interesting. It was one of the henchmen. He was talking about the civilian sort of life, and how that is the more of this, being a slave to the clock and to the 9 to 5. And I don't know, in amongst all of the madness, I kind of resonated with that sentiment. All right, let's finish off. Women in dominant positions. This is from Ben.
I think anyone that came close to a dominant position was Kakihara's sort of temporary girlfriend.
Yeah, but I guess she wasn't about it.
Yeah, I guess everyone has a line.
Yeah, and they were all in submissive positions anyway.
True.
The women that were in this film. Man, we are really double spacing this shit, aren't we?
Yep.
Is there anything generally that you want to say, my love?
I just expected better. I think going in and having so many expectations of what, especially after Visitor Q, my expectations were so high. And to be met with something that, yes, still spoke to a generic sense of him covering sort of the taboo-ness of stuff.
Yeah.
Which we don't see quite often.
Correct.
Violence is something that's always is in movies most of the time.
Yeah.
And he took it to a different degree. And I think they chose to linger on aspects of that violence and depict it in such a way. The brutality of it, I think, was unsettling. But to continually do it repeatedly multiple times in the movie felt weird. And to the point where it wasn't even about Kakihara or Ichi at all. You know, the movie is called Ichi the Killer, but come on now. We could call this anything else.
Ichi the Kinker? Well, it was right there.
It was. But you know what? At the end of the day, I think we have one more Takashi Miike movie to go.
Ladies and gentlemen, Ichi the Kinker and the Cum Squats. Yeah. Interestingly, I don't think I had high expectations of this film. I think I just had a very beautiful mouthful of Visitor Q. So whatever comes next, I was fine with. Would you say that, how does this pit against your worst Tarantino, which I think you said was Reservoir Dogs, right?
Oh,
see, there was a story in Reservoir Dogs and the dialogue was interesting.
Yeah, I think this is at the bottom, man. So far.
The bottom of all degustations.
At the bottom of all degustations.
We haven't done a God tier rank and you're doing
just saying. I need the last one to pick it up, man. Save this degustation for what it is.
Worse than Jojo Rabbit?
Yeah.
Wow, okay. So I guess we're not sure about that. First Love is going to be very interesting as well. But thank you, friends and lovers, for joining us another week in the For Your Reference podcast. Usually we end with our For Your Reference segment, but right now this is a set menu, Audition, Visitor Q, Ichi the Killer, and First Love on the way. If you would like an instructional aerobic video of cum squats on Twitter and Instagram, we're at For Your F Pod.
Write us an email at hello@podcast.com.
We're also on God Tier Rankings podcast if you'd like to leave a rating and review. And we'll see you guys in the next course.
See ya.
Bye.